While Kenyan political leaders leveraged social media to impact the just concluded presidential elections. However, there are claims that some politicians exploited the networking platforms in the presidential campaigns to mislead and rally voters. Social media appeared to be one of the most effective tools to be used in the campaigns. From Twitter, Facebook, Instagram to WhatsApp, politicians used the platforms to influence opinions and shape debate in the poll. Kenya is one of the most tech-savvy nations in Africa, and a big number of Kenyans follow news online. Earlier in July, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission in Kenya had threatened to have Facebook suspended for failing to stop hate speech. NCIC also claimed Facebook had run several political advertisements that were in contravention of the country's ethnic cohesion rules. Well, let's discuss this a bit further now, and I'm joined by Alphonse Shiwundu, a Kenyan editor at the Africa Check. Alphonse, thank you for joining us on the program. Now, Kenya held its general election last week. To what extent was misinformation or social media a concern? Also, in your view, have social media companies and other stakeholders addressed those concerns adequately?
Thank you, Beatrice. To the first bit of the question, what we saw an avalanche of of false information on social media. So what we figured is that before the elections, we had to work with the social media companies. So in this instance, when I say we, it's not just the fact checkers at Africa Check and Pesa Check and AFP Fact Check in Kenya, but also with the civil society under an initiative called Fumbua. So we come together like that, but we were deploying the tools that have been tried and tested. But for this election, there was an avalanche of false information, to the extent that the tools that were deployed were somewhat overwhelmed. And we had to, at some point, figure out evolving strategies to combat the falsehoods on social media. So yes, there was a lot of false information on social media, and there were efforts by the social media companies, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok to combat this, but these efforts were underwhelming, and the false information and the falsehoods were just too much.
Right. So what tools are available to governments and individuals, though, to fight misinformation and incitement on social media platforms?
So the basic tools that are available to anyone who's on social media are the reporting mechanisms of false information or malinformation or content that is unverified or disputed. So it's reported, and this content is pushed to fact checkers, who then vet it for accuracy. But as for governments, they have other proprietary tools that are available for them to monitor content online. So if they're monitoring for hate speech, if they're monitoring for content for crime, they can do that. But now for fact checkers and journalists and people who are combating false information online, there are a ton of open source tools that we use. So for example, if you want to verify images, you can use the Google Lens or Google Reverse Image Search, TinEye. If you want to verify videos, there is InVidVerify. There are all these open source tools available to anyone with an internet connection. Even if you want to verify whether the results are real or not, right, because there was a ton of false results, we put out that kind of information as a fact checker, as fact checkers, so you can actually vet whether people voted in Australia or not, for example.
So, Alphonse, there are many lessons to be learned from Kenya's election here. What, in your view, can African countries do in future to prevent misuse and abuse of social media platforms during elections?
So the lessons that we have learned, and as Africa Check, because we operate in 4 countries, in the next country which is going to have elections is Nigeria. And when you're looking at a democracy like Nigeria, which also has a vibrant tech community, a lot of people connected to the internet, it's a place where the tech companies operating in that country should now anticipate an avalanche. They should anticipate information gaps during the period, and they should also figure out way to dial down on hate speech or or content that is likely to be inflammatory or inciting, so that that kind of debate or polarizing content does not go unchecked through the internet. Also, the closed groups, closed platforms, say WhatsApp, say Telegram, it is important that the civil society and fact checkers in those countries collaborate in a way that they also must report in platform the content that they see, which is likely to be incendiary, which is likely to be hateful. So this content, once it's reported on the platforms, the signatures are taken, and then as soon as when it pops out of the closed platforms to these open platforms like Facebook and Twitter, then it can be easily spotted and stopped from circulating. So those are some of the lessons that we have learned, and we hope that as we go to the Nigerian elections, we will try to let the platforms know what needs to be done, and we experiment in that phase.